Hi, this is Ben Ivy, the Fulfillment Artist. And in this video, I'm going to teach you what is NLP and how does it work. So first of all, what does NLP stand for? So it stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. So let's start off with neuro. So neuro is how we think and process and store our thoughts. So that's looking into the brain area. And then we have language. So we have language is what we say and also our non-verbal. So what we use with our body language. And then we have programming. So this is how your behaviors and patterns actually work. So why do you do these patterns? Like what sort of behaviors do you have? And NLP breaks all these down and looks into linking them. But how did it start? So two people founded it. So you've got Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And they're in California in the 1970s. And what they started to do is they started to model different people who are experts in their field to break down what it is exactly that they do. What is it that defines their success? And then what they did is they started to generate patterns. And if people follow this pattern, then they would generate the same result. So they started being able to remove phobias, change all these things about people. And it wasn't just with affecting people, but it was, you could model people in sports, you could model people in small things, even like cutting down a tree. So let's imagine you've got someone that's cutting down a tree, who's the best in the world. Now, they may not even be aware of what they do. But let's say they're there and they start and they prepare and then they chop and they say, okay, well, what I do is, I look at the tree and then I just hit it as hard as I can and that's what I do and that's what I've always been doing. But then you start to probe and actually find out exactly what they do because he may not be aware. So before he starts, so let's say he's like this. Then you are, okay, so what's going on? Well, right now I'm looking at the tree and I'm visualizing exactly what I'm going to hit. So that could be step one. He goes, next, I look at the axe and then I imagine it going through the tree in one fell swoop. So, okay. Because, and then what I do is I take 2 deep breaths in. So I go, and then on my second one I go, and I swing it back like this, and I always keep looking at the end. And then as I go down, I blow out, and I hit it as hard as I can. And I always follow through with my arms. Right? Now, I've never chopped down a tree. But do you see how there's lots of different things that he's doing that he isn't aware of, but it's only when you probe and ask questions you can start to understand it. Now, if you take all these patterns and these elements that are unconscious to the person, but make them conscious, and you generate a pattern, if you follow the exact same steps, then you're much more likely to generate a better result and even faster. Okay, so that's basically what NLP does, but let me give you a little bit more so you can understand the gist of it. So we all have senses, right? And there are 5 senses that we have. But as you learn, you have got, generally speaking, there's 3 that we learn in. That's audio, visual, or kinesthetic. And you will have a preference. So for example, if I say, oh, do you see the example that I'm saying right now? Do you see that in your mind? Or are you hearing what I'm saying? Or how does that feel when I say that? What I'm doing is I'm applying language to your preference. So with each client, I work out what their preference is so I can speak in their preference so that they're more likely to be influenced and create more longer lasting change. So if you think about for you now, are you a visual person? Are you in audio or are you kinesthetic? And you're going to learn in all those different ways, but you may have a primary that you may not be aware until I've said this now. So when you start to understand people's patterns, you can influence people in better ways and you can help them move forward if you're a coach or if you're working with people on one-on-one. As well as, with your family, with friends, and you can start to understand how they work. So what else? Well, let's say those are modalities, right? Now we're going to go into sub-modalities. So when I say the word dragon, what comes up for you? So in your mind you may think, okay, I've got a green dragon, it's breathing fire, and it's pretty scary. And you may have a really, really scary dragon like Smorg from Lord of the Rings. or the Hobbit. Or you may have a cute little dragon from, I don't know, Train Your Dragon 2. But what happens is, it's just a word, but we have meanings, and we say, oh, well, it's green, it's small, it's fluffy, and, you know, it sounds very cute, or it sounds, you know, harsh. I have a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, or, oh, I have a very light feeling. So when we start to break all this down and understand all these submodalities, we can manipulate them. Right? And I manipulate them with clients in certain ways to help them move forward. If they've got a phobia, you can manipulate those submodalities to change it. Or let's say they don't want to eat chocolate, you can then manipulate them. And you can find out what their preferences are in all these categories to help them move forward. And it's like understanding a lock and key. Right? Once you've got the lock and you've opened it, the same lock will work. You just need to change it round. So this is really, really, really fascinating. And there's one more thing that I wanted to mention that'll give you, you know, a bit of an understanding of NLP. So something that we say is that the map is not the territory. So by this, people have their own representations of what things are, but they're not actually the territory. So how you use this NLP meta model? Well, when you're with clients or when you're working with people, or even when you're just speaking to friends, what happens is they'll say something, right? And they'll say something like, I'm having real trouble getting up at 5 a.m. And you can help them with that 5 a.m. problem, but you don't actually know what the problem is, because this is just like one part. And you say, okay, well, why is that? And they say, oh, because I'm worrying. Okay, why are you worrying? They're worrying because, I don't know, my sister passed away 5 years ago. Okay, well, why are you worrying about that? Because she passed away getting run over, and I'm really scared that the same thing will happen to me. And then you just start breaking it down further and further and further until you sort of understand them so much more and so much deeper. Because as humans, we deal with surface level problems. So we deal with these, oh, well, this is a problem that I'm having, and it's a problem we feel comfortable with. But we never go deep to really understand what the core issue is. But when you understand the core, then everything else changes. So that's pretty much a brief summary of NLP. But I would say look it up, read a few books if you want to understand more. Write some comments if you want to understand, or if you've got a specific question of what I've asked. But NLP is a fantastic tool to be able to understand yourself, understand people, and to be able to be a much bigger influence in the industry you're in. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I look forward to speaking to you next week.